thanks for watching my channel. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how I make my collard greens and smoked turkey. Now, if you're like me, you're thinking that collard greens is only something that your great aunt or grandmother can make. I thought I would never be able to do it, but over the years, I have gotten better and better, and you will too. Okay, so first you're going to need a pack of smoked turkey. I am using turkey tails because that's all they have, but you can use wings, legs, or tails. The tails didn't have a lot of meat in them, so I would prefer the drums because they're full of meat and full of flavor. So they are going to be cooking in 2 cups of water, 2 cups of the Swanson's chicken broth or any chicken broth. Okay, so cover those and allow them to get tender for like an hour and a half. So this next step is optional. Like I said, I didn't feel like the turkey tails had enough flavor, so I cooked about 4 to 6 strips of bacon and used the drippings from it, the bacon grease. Alright, so now we can start getting the sink ready for our greens. I like to scrub it out real good before I soak my greens. So you'll need a grocery bag for this next step. You're going to use that for your trash. So when picking my greens, I usually turn it over to the back and fold it and just tear that stem right up the middle. And normally when I get greens from Walmart, they feel super dirty, but this time they weren't too bad. Usually if you can feel that grime and grit, it would be a good idea to take and rinse each leaf one by one and then put it in the sink and let them soak. All right, so now that you got them all picked, now you can put them in the sink and start to fill it up with water so they can start soaking. I'm going to be taking some sea salt and sprinkling that over them. It just helps to clean them and scrub them as well. Alright, so allow them to soak for about 5 to 10 minutes. Just let them kind of sit in the sink and get all that dirt soaked off. And then once they're done soaking on that side, I'll get the next side ready so they can do another soaking cycle on the other side. So pay attention to the water. That helps you know how many more times you need to clean them. If the water looks super dirty and murky when you take them out, then you need to rinse them a few more times. But if you took them out and the water looks pretty clean, then you know you've pretty much got the majority of all that dirt off. So looking at the water here, I can see I need to rinse them about 2 more times. Now that they're nice and clean, I'm going to be pulling a few at a time from the water and putting them in a strainer to let that water drain off. And then I'm going to be placing them on the cutting board and chopping them up. So I just take a few of them at a time, nothing fancy, and cut them up. And I do this once the smoked turkey has been cooking at least an hour and a half, I'll say, just to give it enough time to get tender. And that is when I start prepping the greens and chopping them up. So once you start to add the greens to the pot, it's going to seem like at first they're not going to all fit. But you just put the lid on, allow them to cook down or wilt down, and then you'll add your next batch. So you'll just keep doing cycles until you get them all in there. So I'm going to add another cup of the chicken broth. And I meant to mention in the beginning that you'll need a big stock pot for this, obviously. Now I'm going to start adding my seasonings. First, I'm putting Creole seasoning. And you want to be careful not to over season your greens. You can always go back and add more, but you cannot take away. After my Creole seasoning, I put the Weber's Kickin' Chicken, 2 tablespoons or more. Now I'm going to put some garlic powder. And 2 tablespoons of your onion powder. Okay, so I'm also going to put the minced garlic in there, like 2 tablespoons. I don't really measure. If you're not comfortable with putting it directly in, you can measure it, but I'm just going to squirt it right in. And it smells so good already. It smells like Thanksgiving. All right, so then I'm going to put a little bit of salt. You can use any salt, sea salt, kosher salt, or table salt. This is what I have, so I'm going to use it in just a little bit. We don't need a lot. And later when you taste it, if you feel it needs more, you can always go back and add more. Okay, so go ahead and add the bacon grease from earlier to add more flavor to your greens. And you'll notice even though the turkey has been cooking for like an hour or more, it still hasn't gotten to the point where it's falling apart. So you want to allow this to continue to cook until the greens are getting tender and that meat is falling apart. And so in the beginning, it looked like it was too many greens, and now that they've cooked down, it doesn't look like it's enough. But like I said, you can do 4 to 6 bushels of greens. I only did 3 because it's just me and the boys, but this recipe is good for 4 to 6. But just keep in mind, the more greens you're using, the more water and chicken broth you may have to use. So again, these are done once the greens start to get tender and the meat starts to fall apart. You can go back in and add more of the Creole seasoning or whatever seasoning until the taste is right for you. So one more thing, I know a lot of people use the green seasoning. I've used it before. You can incorporate that with this recipe, but it won't make or break the greens. They'll still be good with or without it. All right, so that was my collard green and smoked turkey recipe. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like this video, subscribe if you haven't already, and leave a comment down below and let me know what you want to see next.